Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you could join us today. We're going to have a lot of fun. We've got one of my favorite guests waiting to come on. He's always just so easy to talk to, a lot of amazing stories, a lot of good energy, good sense of humor, and I'm grateful for that. Also, grateful to report Father Sean's wife Sharon is continuing to recover, and that was kind of a really, really bad ordeal. She had her surgery on the 22nd, consequently, had five more surgeries since then. Um, but now out of ICU, on the road to recovery, getting past this, although she will need another surgery when she's well enough to do that. So please, please, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And I do have a GoFundMe. The link is in the chat room right now. Father Sean came by early and dropped it. But if you're listening on the ground, when you go to GoFundMe, the title is Join Sharon's Fight to Beat Cancer. And that is Sharon Whittington. Join Sharon's Fight to Beat Cancer. And all of this is appreciated more than you know. All the donations, all of the prayers. It really means the world to Father Shawn. And he is so sorry that he's not able to be here today. Having said that, Father Shawn Whittington is a priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. You may have seen him on Eli Roth Presents the Legion of Exorcists on Travel Channel. And that show can be watched, all episodes can be watched on Max and Discovery Plus. Father Shawn is also the author of two books. I got one of them over. I'm prepared today. Here's one. God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry. This is volume 2. Volumes 1 and 2. And these are really, really interesting books. Each chapter is one of his cases. And you can never predict the way this is going to go. It's just, I think, jaw-dropping. I've done a lot of books, and I always say his books are some of the scariest books, if not the scariest books, of course, nonfiction that I've done. Just incredible stories. So I recommend the books. They are on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and you could also get them at his website. And his website is ghost-b-gone.biz. Ghost-b-gone.biz. And if you do that, you can get an autographed copy, and that's another way to help him. And I'm leaning again. 1 second. Help me, I'm haunted. We did this book last year. This is a compilation of a lot of the most popular topics that we would get questions about in our mailbag. And actually, our guest today is a contributor in this book. And this is a paranormal guidebook. So if you are having trouble, if you know someone who is having trouble, highly recommend. On each topic, Father Shawn weighs in, and then I weigh in, and then we have a guest writer at every topic, which each topic is a chapter. And then in the back of the book, we offer some practical ways to manage and potentially resolve your problems. So with all of that being said, we've got a lot of people joining us today. Welcome. With all that being said, he is the executive producer at Unexplained Cases, and that would be unexplainedcases.com. He's been here before. I would imagine many of you know him and remember him, the fabulous Rick Garner. Yay!
Hello.
Yay! Rick Garner's here, and we're gonna have a nice time talking about this. And I was on your page, and I saw that you posted about Bunnyman a few days
Mm-hmm.
ago. I was saying, what do you want to talk about? We need a cool topic. He's got all kinds of ways that he can go and talk on many, many different things. But I
Lots
saw,
of rabbit holes. So many rabbit holes.
pardon the pun, because we got Bunnyman. And that was a story I was unfamiliar with. So I thought, hey, maybe some people would love to come and hear about Bunnyman. So we went with that. And before we get started, and would love to just go ahead and talk more urban legend. Everybody loves urban legends.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. So this should be a lot of fun. And I want to say hello to Carrie. Hey, girl. Heidi is here. Hey, girl. Hey. Oh, wait, she gets a heart. Carol is here. Carol gets a heart. Um, and we've got Michael Chin. Welcome, Michael. Very glad to see all of you. Fabulous that you're joining us today. So, I want to ask about, and it's almost sounds ridiculous, Bunny Man. Oh, Travis just showed up. Hello. Oh, Miss America, wait for Travis. Um, Bunny Man. It almost sounds ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
A bunny with an X. So, and this is in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Mm-hmm. You are correct.
Okay. So, what's the Bunny Man legend and lore?
Yeah, basically, the urban legend behind that is coming out of Fairfax County, Virginia. Basically, in 1904, there was a bus crash, and that was a transport of some mental asylum patients. They're, it's one of those. You don't necessarily always have to have all the details because you're wondering basically why some asylum patients were being transported, but we don't have to worry about the details there. But one of them, by the name of Douglas Griffin, during that crash, escapes, gets out into the woods. He's the only one that is not recovered, and he survives by being out into the woods eating rabbits, but living off the land. But he doesn't just do that. He hangs the carcasses basically, pins them on trees or whatever. Basically, it's to be able to be found in kind of a macabre sort of way. So
this is like an Ed Gein type Bunny Man.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's having his own particular eggs going on here, basically. But the legend as it forms along, as I'm sure with anything, as years go by, basically, you kind of have to question an urban legend when it has a particular little ring, which is in this case, if you go to this bridge at midnight on Halloween, the Bunny Man is going to murder you. And so that becomes this lore to draw some people in. But before that, I jump forward a little bit intentionally just to jump back just a little bit, because you also start to wonder, like, okay, so you had this incident, were there buses back in 1904? Was there an asylum? Of course, we did some research. Mike, who's in the chat, he's part of the Unexplained Cases team. We looked into this basically, and there's no asylum that you can find that's nearby. I question the fact that if there's a bus, buses were basically even a thing in 1904. But what what's very key, and I think all the listeners can agree to this, if you think about it for just a moment, an urban legend always starts from a shred of truth. It doesn't mean that the whole thing is going to be truthful, but there is something that takes place. And then, of course, you kind of have like the fish story, basically. It started out, it was this small, and, it gets larger, basically, as a whale almost being caught. But around 1970, there was an actual encounter that there was a couple. They were around that area, probably were kind of like a little making out type of thing in the vehicle sort of deal. And a man in light colored clothing threw a hatchet at their car. And obviously, that was a real event, that they saw someone, this is what they thought, they threw something at their vehicle, they got out of there. And now you're saying, like, well, time out, light colored clothing, how is that a Bunnyman? And that's where, again, it's like, well, you had this pre-existing story,
Right.
now you had this, and then you can have a little extra layer of more modern times. If you show up on Halloween, you'll get murdered, and you put all this together, and now you just have this big fat urban legend.
Interesting. And so there's a bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and there's things that happen on the. Is the actual Bunnyman legend on the bridge, or?
Yeah, that's also is a little underwhelming in a way, because the bridge is really a train overpass. So
Okay.
basically, and at the time, how did it exist? I mean, it's not like if you think of bridge, you're thinking of a large structure. This was basically a one car is really what can kind of comfortably go through this bridge. There's concrete, there's a tunnel, you have a train overpass that goes through there. So there's not really anything spooky or creepy about this. But the fact that this accident supposedly happened in that area, and you've had this real, harassment, scaring type of encounter in 1970 happened in the area. So now we can bolster it just a little bit, because it's like, well, if there's a bridge involved, now we can also hang things from the trestle, because,
Right.
Basically, like, kids who were trick-or-treating, that's part of another little slice of this. They got killed, they got hung from, the overhead of the train trestle, basically. And it's like, okay, again, it sounds morbid, it sounds creepy, but it also didn't happen when you look into it.
Well, do you have any people that corroborate any of this? Any kind of people offering up experiences that you think might be okay? I'm going to throw this at you, because there's a lot of people talking lately about egregores. And basically, if you have enough people believing in something, talking about something, over time, you can make that energy a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, because you're saying all the way back to the early 1900s, and like you were saying, I'm not sure if I said hi to Carl, so I have to say hi to Carl. All that time. And then it's kind of like, you were saying, it gets added to, embellished, it gets changed. It's like people remember the telephone game.
Mm-hmm.
You start at one end and you have a message, and when it comes out the other end, it's severely altered. So,
Exactly.
is it possible that you can create a goofy story, and over time you can make a Bunnyman energy?
I think what you're alluding to is probably where the episode that we did um, could potentially be an actual example of that. So, when Mike and I and the team started looking at this, it was like, okay, well, we can't really do an episode on the Bunnyman. I mean, could we? Sure. We could look at the legend. It's also very difficult to investigate. Matter of fact, anyone listening, I do not recommend you go around the bridge, because over the years, things happen. As the saying goes, this is why we can't have nice things. People have hung out. They've possibly been disruptive or destructive.
Your sound went kind of wonky there for a minute.
Oh, am I back?
Yes, but it was a couple of sentences that were a little wonky.
Oh, okay.
This is the Bunnyman Bridge. We're talking about Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, let me step back a second then. So,
and it just went weird again.
oh,
You were better, and then you went back to wonky.
Well, let's see. I don't necessarily know if it's hopefully not my connection.
I see you clearly, but it sounds like a distortion, almost like you're touching a mic or something, and then it goes a little bit half mute, and then it can come back full strength.
Okay. Well, so
now you sound good.
Sounding good. Well, if this keeps happening, I'll come.
I'm gonna do. If I start going like this, that means the mic is going wonky.
well, if we have some more wonkiness, then I'll come off my headset.
Okay.
Maybe there's something going on there. So, stepping back just a second, since maybe this wasn't heard. Basically, when we wanted to look at this, the team in doing an episode, it was like, okay, here we have this legend. Would love to be able to look at it. Would love to be able to investigate it. But this tunnel, this bridge, is in the middle of a neighborhood, or close to a neighborhood at least. And so over time, people have been like, okay, hold on, time out. It's too much disruption, too much craziness going on. So there's a decent monitoring or police presence. So I'm mentioning that to say, if anyone is interested in trying to check it out, feel free to drive through. Don't plan on trying to hang out or investigate it. But what we did
There's any woods or something around there or anything like that?
There are woods, but they are so distant from the actual tunnel, the bridge, that it's more the fact that you have houses in a neighborhood that's way closer. And the reason that plays into the story that we had a little bit was when Rosie Grant contacted us, and it became the focus of the episode.
Hey, Rick, you want to just try taking off your headset?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's see if that just solves the up and down and all around.
All right. So do you hear me?
I do hear you, yes. I hear you fine.
Okay. Is that coming through better then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it might. Well, I think that we could all have the aspiration of becoming an urban legend. I mean, that's but with Rosie, she basically with her account, and she actually basically videoed herself retelling the experience going to the bridge. So that was a really nice first person point of view in sharing her story. That she basically was driving up on that bridge, and this was a day that, indeed, basically. So Mike was, that's close to where he used to live, and she's driving up there because she'd always wanted to check it out. It was, as with urban legends, that's kind of a bit of the lore, is that you want to be able to be like, okay, I want to do this thing. But she basically was kind of like, for the, things would happen, or she was too chicken, as she said, basically, and just never. So finally, on this particular day, she's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to check this thing out. But it was during the day. So that was the first time to check it out. It wasn't like at midnight on Halloween or anything like that. And she distinctly remembers what happens, and she describes it. But in essence, me summing it up, she comes over a hilltop, and here's this woman. It's kind of one of those moments you only have a few seconds to process what you're seeing. But clearly, it is an older woman, head to toe in like black, as she described it, a feathery cape, flowing dark hat, goggles. I mean, kind of almost sounded a little steampunkish.
Yeah.
Once you start having goggles mentioned. But just like, okay, you're not expecting to find that in the middle of the road, and certainly not someone appearing as they did. And they looked in her direction, and so now her car goes past, and she looks and she sees she's still in the middle of the road, and she's like, okay, I'm going to drive through this tunnel, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come back and see, like, okay, who is this? What's going on? So that took only a couple of minutes to do that, but by the time she got back, this individual is gone. Now, going back to the neighborhood and going back to the surroundings, again, this appearing to be an older woman, there's only going to be a top amount of speed of a person of any certain age, basically, like that, unless she just had some type of, doing some Pilates or something like that, had some extra strength on her, but she did look fragile to begin with, what Rosie saw. Nowhere to be found. No way in her mind that she'd have time to have gotten to a house because of the distance of the driveways and the layout, but just completely vanished. Now, does that 100% mean that was a paranormal experience? Of course not, because there's always a little room for an explanation. But in her mind, she couldn't rationalize where this person could go. There's no place for them to hide. There's no car that they could have jumped into. They were just there, and then a couple of minutes later, completely gone. Has nothing to do with the Bunnyman. It has, to me, though, everything to do with the potential of, if you have so many people coming to a spot, all this thought, all this type of intention and energy toward it, could something either be created and or attracted that has nothing to do with the Bunnyman in this case?
Well, for sure. And there's a lot of stories like that. And I've had 2 experiences like that where the one I knew was a ghost. The other one was a lady in the middle of the road. And we were, this is, Carol will know what I'm talking about. This is south suburbs of Chicago, and kind of by the woods. And there's a lady in the road, and she turns and she looks right at the car. She's looking right at us, and we, swerve a little to give her plenty of room and keep going, and then look in the rearview mirror. There's no lady in the road. So that was creepy because she it seemed like a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we turned around and went back. I mean, just turning around in the car and looking in the rearview mirror, and you don't see anybody there like 3 seconds later. I have another story like this too. See, for me, you don't have to convince me, because I think there's spirit everywhere all the time, and we live in a spirit world. So there you go.
Mhm.
And some of us see more stuff than others. And yeah, your story might not be connected, of course, because other things happen. The goggles are a little weirdo.
Mhm.
Might have been someone that escaped from the quote unquote silly bus. But
Yeah, you don't know.
but there weren't buses then, but okay.
Mhm.
And then a second story, this was not that long ago. We came around, this is here in Oklahoma. We came around a curve and we saw a man standing there. You didn't see him until you started going around the curve. And he looked completely regular and he was looking right at us, but he was invisible from like the waist down.
Mm.
Just the top part of a man standing at the correct height. And I said to my daughter, if I tell you something that I just saw, will you promise not to freak out? And she said, Mom, I saw it too. So that was the man in the flannel shirt. And then this one is the creepiest one. I was walking and there were these kids playing basketball in the neighborhood. And there was this guy with overalls on, and he's standing there in the middle of this basketball game, and the kids are just playing normal speed around him. And I looked at him and he looked at me and it looked weird.
Mhm.
And I took like 3 steps and turned around, looked again. There was no man there.
Mm. Mhm.
But see, I've seen a lot, and so I think that they'll let me see them. That's what I think. But
Yeah, yeah,
you
because
know,
that even that alludes to an interesting part in all this is like you just mentioned is like there are folks who I guess you could have you have ultimately so many extremes. Like you could have the someone who's very intuitive. Maybe they even consider themselves to be a medium. They're basically, excuse me, seeing spirits all the time. Almost have to turn it off. Um, you have encounters such as yourself, multiple encounters. Maybe there's a pattern, but there's multiple sightings. You may have an individual who one singular event basically is what they're able to witness and experience, and there's no way to explain it. Or then you go to the other extreme, and whether that's because a person is closed off, they don't believe that they're shut down, they don't have any experience, or they dismiss everything away as there's a reason why it happened because you know ghosts are that's a bunch of hooey. Um, it's just funny that there's a wide swath there.
and you know what's funny is people like me being married to a person like that, which I was. And we lived in this house that was very active. And he was like, in his own way, trying to be supportive, which sounded condescending, which sounded like, no, I believe that you believe you saw something, that kind of thing.
Right.
And that I believe that you believe you heard something. So we were in the kitchen and there was a counter in between us, one of those counters, like a little island kind of thing.
Right.
And he's on one side, I'm on the other. We're talking. His keys are on the counter, and the keys go, shh, and he goes, "Oh, Dad! Oh my God! Did you see that? Oh my God!" And I'm just like, so, it's like, yeah, have some. That's for you. That's yours. You have
Right.
some. You have some.
Mhm.
Like no sympathy at all whatsoever, because it's like, welcome to my universe.
Right.
And I don't know why there are some people that hardly anything ever happens to them, and there are people that they will buy the ticket and go ahead and get locked in the Eastern State Penitentiary till 7 a.m., like hoping something will happen, and come out disappointed because I feel like this is sort of in my family. I feel like if I went to Eastern State Penitentiary, something definitely would happen. That it would be, $45 ticket, and then the PTSD that comes along with it. And so
the stuff you didn't know you were going to get.
Right. But, interesting stuff like that. And I know you said earlier that you might ramble on. I'm the one rambling on.
See, but that's good. It's ebbs and flows. It's all ebbs and flows.
And there's so many urban, now I'm going to bring it back in a little, rein it back in. There's a lot of urban legend bridge stories.
Oh, yeah. I mean, crybaby bridges.
Crybaby Bridge. I've been to Crybaby Bridge in Pitchin, Ohio. How many Crybaby Bridges are there?
I should have done a little quick look on this. I feel like every state has one. And if it's not literally referred to as crybaby, then there's haunted bridges basically. And part of that too, you can easily have urban legends around that, because all you have to do, and again, here's where I talk about a shred of truth. There can be a physical bridge that exists. That's fact. That's truth. There it is. It's either still around or it used to be around. And then you attach a story to it. Now, the story could be completely fictitious, but the bridge.
And also, with an old bridge, sooner or later there is a story, a legit story.
Exactly. Or just the fact that it's kind of like hallways, long corridors, looking up a dark staircase. I kind of feel like bridges fall into that. And a little bit of it is playing off of fear too, because sometimes, especially at night, you're going across a bridge, there's, maybe you don't even entertain it, but, exactly. And that's where these urban legends can thrive off the idea that if there was an incident, basically you can create a story about it, but it also can be a very real account.
Linda said, where there's been tragedy, you tend to find spirit. Absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of have this anticipation, maybe sometimes going across a bridge, especially at night, if you can't fully see it, it's like, okay, well, is the bridge all there? Or is there something on the other side of the bridge? Kind of like if you look up a dark staircase, is there somebody basically waiting up at the top of the staircase? There's this type of weird primal, type of fear that can be there. And sometimes I wonder if stories aren't created to play off of that.
If you get onto a big long bridge and it's going into the complete darkness at night, that's very scary, especially if it's old.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, there's basically some, there's some trust there in the fact that you're like, hey, I'm on this thing, and we're going there. And then you have, unfortunately, scary tales. You could maybe call him a bit of an urban legend, but he's certainly more of a cryptid story. You get into Mothman. And
Mothman stories are outrageously interesting.
Mm-hmm. The fact that there was a bridge that collapsed, of course, and he got blamed for that. But that's where, again, you can have these accounts and stories. Now, were people experiencing something crazy then? I mean, clearly some folks had some experiences, and again, that got woven into, okay, here's this cryptid, and we're going to call him Mothman, and here's this huge tragedy of this bridge collapsing, and you go to Point Pleasant, there's a memorial there for that. Charleston Harbor. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Kyle said the old East Bay Bridge over Charleston Harbor. Thank God it was replaced finally. And that was such a tragedy. And then they had the Mothman sighting. They have a Mothman museum now, and you can get Mothman cookies. They bake them there for you. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But
And then there's a
because
statue that you can put a coin in his butt too. So I mean,
right, I missed that. Well, I
that's
wasn't
something that
actually
people
there,
do.
but I never heard about that. But the Mothman sightings, then it became like the Mothman is the urban legend. He's a sign of bad luck. He's a sign of impending disaster.
Yep. Bad omens.
Here's Linda. Chew on that, and if you have fear in you, any negative spirit is going to lurk around. They're going to be where they can feed off of that energy. That's one of the most important things to learn, and it's one of the hardest things to learn because every time something happens, even if whatever it was wasn't trying to really scare you, there's the shock and stun of it in the moment. And then, you realize later it wasn't something malevolent that was trying to hurt me. But sometimes you're dealing with things that are, and your reaction is just like feeding them Cheerios. And
Nice comparison.
yes, well, thank you. You're welcome. But it just keeps perpetuating until you can get a grip on it, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean that's where, and part of that too. You're talking about like going to, Eastern State or going to any location. Um,
Linda said Cheerios. Yes, Linda, Cheerios.
yes, maybe even Honey Nut Cheerios, which are
Maybe
arguably
even
the best ones.
they are.
So,
Honey Nut Cheerios are the best ones.
but people will go to these locations, and a lot of times, so what you were partially alluding to is, they're going there because they want an experience. It's kind of like, hey, I want to believe, so I'm going to go to something that's considered the most haunted, and you know, I mean, I'm up for filet mignon as well. So that you're going to go there. I want an experience. I'm paying for a ticket. And so, in one sense, you could get disappointed because you didn't have experience. But for another, it's kind of like this. My experience, especially, having done this since basically 1999, is folks, you may want an experience, but don't treat it as a joke or don't treat it as an experience, because that type of naivety is what can get you into trouble, and is basically why Father Shawn has a whole book of experiences, and why you have stories and I have heard accounts, because folks do that.
Linda said might as well be giving them filet mignon. Good point. Point Pleasant should have those plastic mold injection machines they had at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago for Mothman. And he said, I can still smell those. I know exactly what you mean. And they had them at the zoo. You get like a dolphin one or a gorilla one, and it would just come down and then it would come down the slide. Those are pretty cool.
Nice.
But all of that is super interesting. And I saw a show, again, this is a show, I can't vouch, I don't know. But this couple went, and, there's people that they take it very lightly. When I had my show, and I used to get a lot of emails from people that got themselves in a lot of trouble by thinking it's a tee-hee thing, and we're going to go, and then they're disrespectful. They're the people that are really disrupting everything with the people that are there really listening about the history and are respectful and are interested in seeing if something legitimate happens, and they come on like a clown show, and then they do stupid things, and then something bad happens. But with this couple, they heard or read a story about this field where someone saw Mothman. So they decided to go there and call him. Yoo-hoo, Mothman. Hello. And they got a Mothman. And they were in their car going back to their house, and it's flying above their car, and they're scared that it's followed them to their home,
Mhm.
and they're scared to go outside. So, it all comes under be careful what you wish for. We should have had a chapter in here called Help Me, I'm Haunted. Be careful what you wish for.
See, that could actually be, maybe that's the second installment. You have a follow up
Right,
with that, right? And
right, because that could be a pretty long chapter. There's a lot of people like that,
mhm.
that maybe something will happen. It'll be so cool. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, and that's unfortunately, that kind of ties into a lot of moments, especially, I feel like, you kind of have some of the tales, especially it ends up talking about like, guys basically do just incredibly dumb things, and it's amazing that we actually make it into adulthood with some of the dumb things that we try, because at the time it
Right,
seemed like a good idea. It
right,
seemed perfectly safe.
right.
Why don't I
What
try
could
this?
possibly go wrong?
What could happen? What's the
Right,
worst that could happen? I might end up in traction or be dead. Okay, whatever.
right,
But there is this degree of like invincibility, but then especially when you're dealing with something that you cannot see, and which to a degree you may be kind of like, is it really real? Is it really a real thing?
right,
And just like in that case, you doing some taunting may not have actually been Mothman, but it certainly could be something that's like, oh, fresh meat. Let me go
right,
ahead and play with you.
right. Absolutely. And it's an invitation.
Hmm.
And you have to be very careful about invitations. We
Very
talked
much so.
about this before a lot on this show.
Hmm.
Like a lot of things, people don't think about it. And that was an invitation.
Hmm.
That was. There's a lot of different ways that you can make a little invitation. And connecting that to a story that I have that I hope this book comes out soon. James Baxter wrote the story, but I wrote down the experiences on a little steno pad and just kept taking pictures and sending it to him.
Hmm.
But I think that the biggest point of the story, which was all based on real experiences in a location in Joplin, that was just a fabulous. It was a hotel, then it got turned into luxury condos, and then it got shut down. But the stuff that happened there in a roundabout way 10 years later, I'm going to say the whole point of the book is to show people be careful when you ask a question. You're not in charge of when you get an answer. You're not in charge of how long it takes to get an answer. You're not in charge of when the answer is going to stop.
Hmm.
I mean, really, because this sort of ties into what we're saying. You threw that out in the universe. You're asking questions. Oh, nothing happened. 10 minutes go by. You think nothing happened. No, no. A question still was put out into, you know, the atmosphere. And doing that is an invitation. And anything can answer you whenever it wants to, for as long as it wants to, however it wants to.
And that's why, in a lot of cases, someone could be like, "Oh man, there was nothing took place here. We did our things, we taunted or whatever," and it's when they get home
Yeah,
uh, that they realize, oh yeah, well, you had an invitation, something followed you home, and
right,
maybe you don't even realize it that night, but then suddenly it's like the next day stuff starts happening. You're in a
right,
bad mood, you get sick, all these different things that you kind of like individually, they may not seem connected, but then it's like, yeah, you have an unwanted house guest now.
right. And for people that don't know, and you might think a lot of things that you say or do is innocent and it's no big deal, but there was an invitation in there, and you are not in control of the answer,
Hmm.
how it comes, where it comes, from whom it comes. You're not in charge of that. You asked a question, just a simple little thing like doing that. And paranormal investigation is some of the most dangerous stuff that you can do. And it's not just the spirit world when you think about it, because you could be going through a place with rotten floors, rotten stairs,
Mm-hmm.
asbestos,
Mm-hmm.
and going through there in the pitch black. So, there's a lot of ways to be in danger if you're not careful.
Yep,
Oh,
absolutely.
I got an agree 100%. I like your friend.
See, yeah, Mike's good people. So I'm glad he's hanging out, had a chance. So yeah, I keep him up to date on shows. I keep wanting to try to get him on a show. So,
Okay. Well,
oh,
let's do that.
see
Love to
now
do
we're gonna
that.
have peer pressure. See, Annette's gonna twist your arm, Mike. So,
Right. Yeah. Well, we just, what you do when you come on a show like this, you don't think about all the people listening on the FM dial.
mm-hmm.
You just talk to the person that you're talking to and handle any questions or comments from the chat room. And we have to remember the people that are listening to the point of they can't read the little comments. We have to say it out loud and things for them and maybe repeat it twice, because if you're in your car listening to a radio show and someone says the name of something once,
Mm-hmm.
that's so easy for that to be completely out of your, an hour later, it's like, I completely don't remember.
Absolutely,
However, you can always go on YouTube and find us.
that's
You
right.
can find us at Father Shawn's Paranormal Ministry on YouTube, and all of our episodes are there. And you can comment on them, and that would be very, very nice. And we invite you to do that. You don't have to listen to the show live
Mm-hmm.
or else miss it. You can still be able to hear. And I think we always have really good conversation. That's our goal.
Absolutely. And a lot of these conversations, at the time, and especially I could imagine you're in the car, you're listening on the radio, thoughts may be going through your head, and maybe you remember something. And that's why it's awesome that these shows exist in a form that you can go back and you can go to that episode, and maybe you want to comment about your experience. That's something that happened to you or a question, and so you could add that to the comments underneath the video.
And we appreciate that. And we also appreciate everyone who likes, shares, and subscribes.
Mm.
You can send me questions at annette.munich@gmail.com, and also find me on Facebook. And Rick Garner is also on Facebook. So, and we're always happy. I have met a lot of new people lately by doing that, friend me up. My account got hacked. I have hardly any friends. Everybody can feel sorry for me. I have hardly any friends.
Oh.
My account got hacked. So I had to basically start all over. And Father Shawn is the same. His account got hacked, and
Yeah.
they couldn't fix it.
Yeah, that's one of those unfortunate things. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of positive with social media, just in the fact that you can connect with folks and you can have questions and you can find communities and all that. Of course, there's the silly side with comments and things that we're not even going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the positive, but unfortunately, yeah, when things get hacked and you lose that community, it's like, ugh, I got to start all over, and
Start all over.
hard. That's hard to do.
And you'll never remember everybody. I actually, my page is kind of nice now because at least the people on it, I know who they are.
Yeah.
I used to friend everybody up because I thought they were interested in the radio or the books.
Right.
And that's not really true. There's a lot of people that are creepy that come along. But now I have a better quality of friends, even though it's much less, and they're a lot more reactive and communicate and comment, and I enjoy that.
Oh, and there's some value in doing that. I think it's real easy. You kind of like, in a way, yeah, you start coworkers and whatever, convention friends, or you name it. Basically, you end up having this bloated type of thing, and it's like it's not really a close community. So when you actually kind of pare that down, and I've seen a lot of people decide that they want to do that, and there's a lot of charm, there's a lot of help in doing that, basically, because you can focus on people, and we as individuals who I think need to have community. I think we need to have smaller communities, because when they get too large, it's unmanageable, it's unrelatable, it's too much.
Right. You don't know who's actually saying your stuff anymore when it's so large.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this on, Facebook and different social media, it's difficult because when you're advertising like the show coming up and you're advertising a book, you can get more likes off of a kitty cat picture or a plate of spaghetti than things that you're seriously trying to do. So, and if you're friends with someone and if you put a like, that helps the algorithm show that to more people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't spend it all on spaghetti and kitty cats. Hold a little bit back for your friends.
So Annette, that was literally, I think, a T-shirt. Don't spend it all on spaghetti.
Don't
Kitty
spend
cats,
it
save
all.
some for your friends. T-shirt.
Right.
Somebody
Hey,
do it.
that's a
Make it.
great saying.
It is.
Don't spend it all on spaghetti and kitty cats.
That's pure gold in that. Pure gold.
Love it. Well, we're getting close to the end. So, Michael goes on investigations with you.
Yeah. So Mike's our researcher, lead investigator. So basically, he kind of stepped up a bit when Darren stepped back, and so we also have Ben and Jim on the team as well. But Mike and I are geographically close. Basically, we're about like 20, 30-ish minutes apart. So, in trying to explore Maryland, of course, speaking of urban legends, we talked about Virginia. Maryland, of course, has some. We've got the Goat Man comes to
I want
mind.
to talk about Goatman, and now the show's almost over.
See, but now that's like there's more. There's more things to
Uh,
unpack. So, see what I did there? So,
did you investigate Goatman yourself?
see, again, that's what makes it challenging about urban legends is it's great that there's this legend, but
Right.
for us, because we come at things with such a journalistic formula, it's like, okay, I need to find someone who, okay, you think you saw him, you think you encountered him, or you really research the topic or whatever, and sometimes it's just difficult to uncover folks like that. Basically, like with Bunnyman, wouldn't have really had a story until came across Rosie having it, and then I was like, okay, now not only can we touch on the story, but it's a unique angle.
Interesting. So, Goatman.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the bigger investigations you've done recently, and what do you have coming up?
Well, at the most recent, we actually dropped a couple of 2 episodes that are related to the state of Mississippi. That's actually where I was born and raised, and so I
Nice.
Hmm?
Nice.
Oh yes, yes. That's I was there for 30 years before moving to Maryland, and um, the return to a location called McRaven and the return to a location called Marihope 25 years after um, were very interesting. So those were the latest investigations. If folks want to check those out. In the meantime, I'm going to be there's so many different ones that we kind of like. I say I have in the hopper that I'm developing. I've always said these episodes, these cases have a life of their own. They get ready when they're ready. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily always on a timely basis. So we definitely do have a few that are in the hopper that will be coming out soon.
And if they go to unexplainedcases.com, they can find the videos.
Yes, unexplainedcases.com actually has all of our latest cases, as well as when we first started back in 99 to 2004. If you go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/unexplainedcases, that actually has all of our latest material there that's in high def and 4K. The older stuff around 2000 is not high def, but hopefully eventually I'll be able to upgrade that as well.
Well, we are growing as we go along. We are growing and improving.
Exactly.
So that's okay. Because whatever you have, at that time that you used, you were able to tell the story and able to catch the experience, and people will be able to see that and enjoy that. And if anybody goes to unexplainedcases.com and you see some interesting videos and you want Rick to come back and talk more about it, because Rick comes back with us periodically and we enjoy it. And now we have to have him back because we didn't talk about Goatman.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, that'll be so much fun. So before we go, I have a couple of things I have to say before we go. And I want to thank you so much for coming. I look forward to it. I think we, had a good time, and we got a lot of comments, and people were really interested and interactive about the urban legend topic. And that is a rabbit hole. Urban legends. You could talk about urban legends for hours and hours and hours, and there will always be more. And really interesting what you said about the Crybaby Bridge, because I was actually at one and I didn't realize that almost every state has one called that. Although I would have been for sure thinking, yeah, haunted bridge, yeah, for sure, or bridge with a legend and all that makes sense. But the Crybaby Bridge, that name, and I can run over for a minute. They don't get mad at me. Okay, so Crybaby Bridge, it had a story where if you're there and you start seeing this lady and she tells you the story and you're seeing the accident and the baby, and she's looking for her baby, and she's asking you if you saw where the baby went. I don't know what she does to you if you're like, nope, I don't know, because apparently it never gets solved. But is that, I'm just bringing this up because is that like the same lore, the lady, and you see her and then you can see the whole accident and she's looking for her baby? Is that the same story attached to all of these Crybaby Bridges?
Not precisely, but there's always some form of a tragedy, and and if it's literally not referred to as a crybaby, then there's not a baby involved. Someone else, was murdered there or whatever. And as Mike just said, at midnight you can hear it cry, because it's funny how all these urban legends love to be like, it's at midnight, because of course, hey, that's an hour. That's the common hour. It's late at night and things spooky are supposed to happen then. So that's the fun aspect of urban legends for sure. But as we kind of alluded to, things can also get a little dangerous depending on your intentions.
Exactly. So now I gotta go, but I'm gonna say a few things before we leave. And of course, again, Rick Garner, unexplainedcases.com. Michael, you can come on and hang out with us next time and talk about cases. We would really love that. And I want to say we do have a new book. The new book is Joshua. This is a really cool story. It's like a modern day Frankenstein sci-fi story I love this book. Love, love, love. That's 3 loves. And also, I want to say thank you to UPRN Talk Radio 107.7 FM in New Orleans, 105.3 FM in the Gulf Coast, and to Joe Montaldo and Michelle DeRoche. And I want to encourage everyone to stay tuned for Spirit Switchboard with Carrie Lynn Shellhorn. Thank you so much, Rick. We will do this again soon. Really enjoyed it. Everybody have a great night, great weekend. Thanks for coming. And we will see you next week with Danny Miner. All right, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you and bye.
Bye.